Well, Democrat senators blocked a measure earlier this week that would have banned biological men from women's sports at institutions that receive federal funding. And now church leaders are reacting, writing on the USCCB website. Bishop Robert Barron and Bishop David O'Connell call the measure common sense, adding in part, quote, "The teaching of the Catholic Church calls us to advocate for the equal dignity of men and women, recognizing that God created us male and female. This legislation would ensure a level playing field for women and girls to compete in fairness and safety with other females." Meanwhile, earlier this week, a judge blocked the enforcement of an executive order by President Trump that would in part ban doctors nationwide from performing gender transition surgery on children. The executive order, titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation, would also revoke federal funding for healthcare providers that perform so-called gender-affirming care, things like mastectomies or prescribing hormone therapy drugs for anyone under the age of 19. And for more, let's bring in healthcare attorney Harry Nelson, partner of Leach, Tishman, Nelson and Hardman. Harry, good to be with you. We appreciate it. So can you tell us more about this lawsuit that led to the federal judge blocking Trump's executive order?
Sure. A number of rights groups filed a case in Maryland, and there were also a number of states, Colorado, Minnesota, Washington, among them, who filed suit. And the argument was that the executive order that President Trump issued banning or any federally funded institutions from providing hormone-related therapy or any kind of gender transition care was a violation of equal protection and also a violation of states' rights to regulate medical practice. So that's what was at issue in these cases and what led to these judges issuing injunctions.
Yeah, I know the ruling by the judge, that's not final, but it does put the enforcement order on hold until the case that is settled. So what exactly does that mean? Can these doctors, can they perform surgeries on children during this time?
Well, at the moment, these two injunctions, in Washington State and in Maryland, do prevent the executive order from going into place. So technically, doctors and hospitals can make the choice while this injunction is in place to continue with these treatments. Of course, healthcare providers don't like instability and uncertainty, and families have to make difficult choices knowing that care may be interrupted based on a court decision coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks or months. So it's a point of uncertainty for both the providers of healthcare and the patients.
Here, let me ask you this. If this executive order, if it goes into effect eventually, could these doctors that perform these surgeries during this time, could they be prosecuted?
While the federal injunction, first of all, this is not an order for criminal sanctions. I should note there are 27 states that now have laws that prohibit, and some of those states criminalize the provision of these surgeries. So doctors are at risk in 27 states now. This particular executive order was to pull federal funding potentially, but not to criminalize this conduct for these doctors. But it's a pretty serious thing for hospitals depending on Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal funding to be at risk. And so I think it's a pretty serious sanction all the same.
How do you think this will ultimately unfold?
Look, I think we clearly are at a point where more than half the country, more than half the states have already made a decision they don't want these surgeries done. I do believe that these executive orders will be upheld, and that it will really narrow the choices of institutions that don't receive federal funds that can offer this care. It'll prevent Medicaid funding from being used as it is currently being used around the country. And it's going to lead to hard choices for healthcare providers and patients who are looking for this type of care or need this type of care.
Okay, we're going to leave right there. Harry, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.